Welcome to my stories. I'm Voices and Voces. On this channel, we'll explore the power of learning languages through stories. Learning a new language is not just about words, it's about understanding cultures and perspectives. Stories make this journey more engaging and memorable. If you're ready, let's jump in. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and let's connect in the comments to make these stories even better.
Gabriel sighed. He couldn't escape this, so he had to make it sound less serious. He ran a hand through his hair and gave a small smile. Okay, I think I should start by saying this. The man raised his eyebrows. Don't think of me as a guy who throws flower pots at strangers. I don't do this every day. The man's eyebrows went higher. Gabriel cleared his throat. Well, here it was, the truth. Yeah, so the thing that hit you was a flower pot. And I kind of accidentally dropped it. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then the man tilted his head. So you did this? Gabriel's fingers tightened around his coffee cup. Here we go. Technically, yes. But it was an accident, he said quickly. Then he shrugged. He had to act casual. I mean, I don't usually throw flower pots at people. It was just really bad timing. The man looked at him for a moment. Then he rolled his eyes. Very reassuring, he said sarcastically. Gabriel gave a small laugh. But under that laugh there was guilt. He had to do something. A real solution. He took a deep breath and became serious. Look, after we leave here, we're going to the police. I'm sure they can find a record. Maybe someone is looking for you. Maybe they can help us figure out who you are. The man thought for a few seconds. Then he gave a small nod. I guess that makes sense. Gabriel felt a little relief. At least he had given him a direction, but deep inside, the guilt was still there, and he had no idea how to fix it. The sky outside was completely grey. The first light of the morning came through the large glass windows. But it wasn't warm. Inside the white hospital walls, everything looked colder and harder. In the hallway, nurses were talking. A doctor typed something on a computer. A patient sighed deeply as he pushed his wheelchair. The hospital's busy morning had begun, but the heavy feeling in Gabriel's chest hadn't changed. This was still his fault. He put his hands in his pockets and looked down. He didn't know how to fix this. He looked at him. The man looked a little better now. At least his eyes weren't empty anymore, but there was something in his voice. Uncertainty. Gabriel noticed it. This man had nothing. Did he have a home? Friends? He didn't know. And it was because of Gabriel. The guilt in his chest grew heavier. He couldn't leave this man alone. He took a deep breath. He spoke before he could think too much. Like I said, when we leave here, we'll go to the police. The man raised his eyebrows. Do you think they can help? I think so. At least they can check the records. Maybe there's a report. Or maybe someone is looking for you. The man paused. Then his eyes moved to the window. It looked like he was trying to feel something. But after a few seconds, he shook his head slowly. Nothing feels familiar. Gabriel cleared his throat. Hearing that made him feel worse. But he smiled, because there was nothing else he could do. Don't worry, we'll figure it out together, he said. But inside, all he felt was regret. Hospitals were strange places. People came here to get better. But hospitals never felt warm. Cold white walls, bright fluorescent lights, the smell of medicine. Time moved slower here. But now they were leaving. Gabriel stood by the door. His hands were in his pockets, his eyes on the floor. The man was still getting ready inside the room. He had taken off the hospital clothes and put on the clothes they gave him. Too simple. A grey t-shirt, black pants, and a thin jacket. At least, he didn't look like a patient anymore. The man was staring at the mirror, but it looked like he didn't recognize his own face. Gabriel didn't say anything. He gave him a moment. After a while, the man took a deep breath and turned to him. "I guess I'm ready," Gabriel nodded. But deep inside, he wasn't sure. Was he really ready? Or would he feel worse after leaving? When he realized he had nowhere to go, Gabriel pushed the thought away. "All right," he said, opening the door. The man followed him silently. They stepped into the hallway. Gabriel sighed. Now there was only one thing left to do. "We're going to the police, right?" the man asked, as if reminding himself. "Yeah. Maybe they can find someone looking for you." The man thought for a few seconds. Then he gave a small nod. But Gabriel noticed something. This man didn't even know if anyone was looking for him. And that made him feel even more alone. Gabriel pushed down the uncomfortable feeling. Now was not the time to think about it. "Let's go." And they walked out of the hospital. When they stepped outside, a cold wind hit their faces. The sky was still grey. The city was awake, but the air felt heavy. Traffic was slow. People were rushing to work. As Gabriel walked, he glanced at the man next to him. He was silent. His hands were in his jacket pockets. His eyes focused on the road. Everything still felt unfamiliar to him. Gabriel sighed. He couldn't even imagine how this man felt. But he was still here. He hadn't thought about leaving him alone. "The police station isn't far," he said. The man nodded, but didn't reply. Gabriel continued. He wanted to start a normal conversation. "Who knows? Maybe someone will recognize you as soon as we walk in," he said with a small smile. The man thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Maybe, but I don't think so." There was something in his voice. Did he really feel like no one was looking for him? The station was busier than he expected. Officers were working with paperwork. A few people were waiting in line. A phone rang in the back, and someone answered quickly. Gabriel took a deep breath and walked straight to the front desk. The officer looked up. He was a middle-aged man with tired eyes. "Yes?" Gabriel glanced at the man beside him, then spoke. This man was taken to the hospital after an accident. He lost his memory. The officer raised an eyebrow. "No ID?" Gabriel shook his head. "No. He doesn't remember his name, his address, or his family." The officer sighed. This wouldn't be easy. "All right, wait here. We'll see what we can do." Gabriel and the man moved to the side. Now, all they could do was wait. The man sat down but said nothing. Gabriel looked at him. He didn't seem nervous, but it was like something inside him was missing. Finally, Gabriel broke the silence. "How do you feel?" The man shrugged. "I don't know," he said simply. And Gabriel stayed quiet again, because he didn't know what else to say. Inside the police station, everything was moving. Officers talked on phones, typed on keyboards, filed papers. Everything was fast, organized, but also chaotic. The air smelled like coffee and old paper. Gabriel leaned back in his chair, resting his head. Time felt slower here. He glanced at the man beside him. He was sitting still. His face was empty. A police officer was at a computer, scanning files. Another one was flipping through some papers, but they still hadn't found anything. Gabriel took a deep breath. The longer they sat here, the heavier his chest felt. He brought him here, but what if they found nothing? Then what? Gabriel cleared his throat. He had to break the silence. "Maybe it just takes time," he said. His voice was calm, but there was something tight inside him. The man blinked. It was like he had just realized he was in the room. He slowly looked up. "I guess," he said quietly. But his voice wasn't strong. It was more like he was accepting it. Gabriel looked away. Hearing that made him feel worse. A police officer walked toward them, holding a folder. Gabriel immediately sat up straight. The officer looked tired. "We couldn't find any record of your identity," he said. The man narrowed his eyes. "What does that mean?" The officer sighed. "It means we have nothing to identify you. Your fingerprints aren't in the database. There are no missing person reports. You don't exist." The air in the room felt heavier. Gabriel saw the change in the man's expression. Until now, he had been neutral, calm. But now, for the first time, he truly looked lost, not knowing if someone was looking for him. That was worse than anything. Gabriel swallowed. "Well, maybe they need to check deeper," he said quickly. The officer shook his head. "Of course we'll keep looking. But right now we have nothing." The man lowered his head slightly. He went quiet. Gabriel didn't know what to do. Finally, he said the only thing he could. "We'll figure it out." But even his own voice didn't sound convincing. The air in the room was getting heavier. The police officer turned back to the computer, typed a few more times, then sighed. His face showed something Gabriel didn't want to see. Hopelessness. He looked up at the man. "Look, we're doing our best, but—" He hesitated, looked away. He didn't want to say this, but he had to. "Right now, we can't find any information about you." The man blinked. "So, there's nothing about who I am?" The officer shook his head. "Not for now. But we'll keep looking. If we find anything, we'll let you know." The man lowered his head. Gabriel kept thinking about the officer's words. "Right now, we can't find any information about you." The man still had his head down. At first, he looked calm. But now, he truly looked lost. Gabriel took a deep breath. He couldn't just leave him like this. But what could he do? What could he say? He stood up, put his hands in his pockets, and tried to keep his face normal. He had to look more natural than he felt. "I guess there's no point in waiting here anymore," he said. His voice sounded normal, but inside he felt the opposite. The man looked up. He didn't say anything, but there was a quiet expectation in his eyes. Gabriel knew that look, because he had once had it too, when he felt like he didn't belong anywhere, when he had nowhere to go. He cleared his throat. Now, he had to say the sentence that would change everything. "Do you have anywhere to go?" The man blinked. Slowly, he shook his head. "Where would I go?" he said simply. And Gabriel's chest tightened completely. At that moment, he stopped thinking. He just said it. "I don't know, but I don't think you should be alone right now." The man frowned. For the first time, he looked surprised. "What do you mean?" Gabriel shrugged, as if it wasn't a big deal. But inside, he knew it was. "I just mean, you should stay somewhere safe until you figure things out." The man stayed quiet, thinking. Gabriel waited for his decision, trying to push down the guilt in his chest. But he knew. He couldn't leave this man alone. When they stepped outside, the city crashed down on them. The smell of car exhaust filled the air. Traffic was stuck. Horns were blaring loudly. A street musician played the guitar on the corner, while a man nearby argued on his phone. The city was chaotic, but the man didn't move. He stood at the door, looking around. His eyes moved, but they didn't focus on anything. Gabriel took a few steps forward, but the man stayed still. It was like he had been dropped here by mistake, like he didn't belong. Gabriel glanced at him. He knew that look. Everything was familiar, but also strange. Like the world was there, but it wasn't his. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then Gabriel cleared his throat. "Come on, let's not stand here too long." The man finally turned his head away from the street and looked at him. His face seemed like he was trying to find some meaning, but he didn't say anything. He just nodded and followed.